Have you ever wondered why some leaders and organizations are just so much more influential than others? It almost feels like magic, doesn't it? But it's not. Turns out there's a pattern, a really simple but powerful idea that explains it all. So let's dive into that pattern, pulled straight from Simon Sinek's Start With Why. Right. This is the big question. We're in a world where pretty much everyone competes on price, or features, or service. So how on earth do some leaders build these followings of people who are so fiercely loyal? People who act not because they have to, but because they genuinely want to. I want you to think about these three for a second. You've got a computer company, a civil rights leader, and a couple of brothers who figured out how to fly. On the surface, what do they have in common? Nothing, right? And yet their impact completely changed the game. And they all followed the exact same pattern to get people on board. So what is this secret pattern? What is it that makes them so different from everyone else who had similar dreams, but just couldn't make that same lasting impact? Okay, let's break down what they all share. So what's the secret sauce? Well, it's a simple but really profound shift in how they communicate. See, while all their competitors were busy shouting about what they did, a product, a service, these leaders started from a totally different place. They weren't just selling something, they were selling a cause, a belief. And that's why people would put up with inconvenience or even pay more, not for a thing, but to be a part of something so much bigger. And this brings us to the core of it all. Sinek calls it the golden circle. And it's this incredibly simple framework that just perfectly explains how these leaders build such amazing loyalty and create massive, lasting change. Okay, so the first layer, the very outside of the circle, is the what. This is the most obvious thing for any company. We sell cars. We're a law firm. We make computers. Super easy to identify, super easy to talk about. Everybody knows this. Now, moving one layer in, we get to the how. This is where companies start to explain what makes them special or different. You know, things like, we use a proprietary process, or our computers have this really user-friendly design. It's all about setting themselves apart from the competition. And now we get to the very center, the bullseye, and honestly, the most important piece of the puzzle, the why. And listen, this is not about making a profit. That's just a result. The why is the purpose, the cause, the core belief. It's the reason you get out of bed in the morning. Why does your company even exist? And you'd be shocked how few can actually answer that clearly. So here's the absolute game changer. Most people and most organizations communicate from the outside in. They go from the clearest thing, the what, to the fuzziest, the why. But the truly inspiring leaders, they do the exact opposite. They start with why, and then they work their way out. And the simple reversal, it changes absolutely everything. Now, this whole inside-out idea brings up a really critical distinction in how we influence people. When a company doesn't have a clear why to inspire you, they're left with pretty much only one other tool to get you to act: manipulation. Let's just look at that contrast one more time, because it's so important. The typical pitch starts with what? Here's our fantastic new car, it gets great gas mileage. Meh. The inspiring approach starts with why. Our purpose is to accelerate the world's shift to sustainable energy. To do that, we build beautiful, efficient cars. You feel the difference, right? It's huge. And these manipulative tactics, they are everywhere. We see them every single day. Price drops, limited time only promotions, messages based on fear, peer pressure, even those aspirational ads promising you a better life if you just buy this thing. And look, they absolutely work to get a sale, but that's it. They're just short-term fixes because they don't build any real connection or trust. They create a customer for a day, not for life. And here is the key takeaway from all this. Manipulations, they get you transactions, but inspiration, that's what builds loyalty. And loyalty is that incredible thing where a customer is willing to turn down a better product or a cheaper price just to stick with you. That's a powerful bond that no sale or promotion could ever buy. So why does this work so well? Why does communicating from the inside out feel so different, so much more powerful? Well, the answer isn't in some marketing textbook. It's actually hardwired right into our own biology. This is what makes the golden circle so mind-blowing. It's not just some clever communications idea that Sinek made up. It's literally a map of how our brains are wired to make decisions. I mean, just look at this. The golden circle lines up perfectly with the major parts of the human brain. The what corresponds to our newest brain, the neocortex. And the why and how, they map directly onto our limbic brain system. It's a perfect one-to-one match. Let's break this down a bit. The outer part of our brain, the neocortex, that matches the what level. That's our rational, analytical brain. It handles all the language, all the facts and figures. But deep inside, we have the limbic brain. This part corresponds to the why and how. It's responsible for all our feelings. Things like trust and loyalty. And get this, it's also the source of all our behavior and decision-making. But here's the catch. The limbic brain has zero capacity for language. And that's exactly why we get gut feelings. It's when we know a decision feels right, even if we can't quite explain why in words. So you see, when you start your pitch with a bunch of facts and features, you're just talking to the analytical part of the brain. But when you start with why, you are speaking directly to the limbic brain. You're communicating with the part that actually controls behavior. You're winning hearts, not just minds. And that is what drives action and creates that deep, lasting loyalty. Okay, so now that we've got the framework and the biology behind it, let's see how this all plays out in the real world. How do you actually use your why to build momentum and create a real movement? This right here is a fundamental shift in how we think about business. The goal isn't to chase down every single person who might need your product. Instead, you focus on finding the people who share your core beliefs, because those are the ones who will become your loudest and most passionate advocates. And this whole idea is backed up by a well-known concept called the law of diffusion of innovations. It basically shows how any new idea or product spreads through a population. And here's the key. To get mass market success, you can't just aim for the big middle chunk of the curve. You have to win over the far left side first. Our population is broken down into these different segments. And that tipping point where you get real mass market success happens when you capture between 15 and 18% of the market. That means you have to convince the innovators and the early adopters first. Why? Because the more practical-minded majority in the middle, they won't try something new until someone else has tried it first and vouched for it. And who are these innovators and early adopters? Well, they're the people who operate from their why. They're the ones who trust their gut feelings. These are the people who stood in line for hours to buy the very first iPhone, not just because it was a cool new gadget, but because of what it said about them. They are the true believers who will carry your message for you. And so this whole deep dive really comes down to one final and kind of challenging question for you. You definitely know what you do, and you probably know how you do it. But can you clearly, simply tell me why you do it? What is your purpose, your cause, your fundamental belief? Because when you find that answer, that's the moment you stop just selling things and you start inspiring people.